This is Counterpoint, and I'm your host, Tanya Granic Allen. Canada's economic stability may be entering its most fragile chapter since the pandemic, and this time, the threat isn't a virus or inflation shock, but rather trade. The Bank of Canada has warned that losing preferential access under CUSMA could tip the country into recession. At the same time, tariff uncertainty from Washington is already weighing on investment and business confidence. With the scheduled review of the North American Trade Pact approaching, the question is no longer whether tensions exist, but how far they could go. Adding fuel to the fire, Canada's recent tariff deal with China, reducing barriers in sectors like electric vehicles and agriculture, has triggered sharp backlash from the United States. President Trump has threatened tariffs of up to 100% on Canadian goods, raising concerns about retaliation and the limits of Canada's room to diversify beyond its largest trading partner. Is Ottawa prudently hedging its bets or playing a risky game with the United States market that still buys the majority of our exports? Meanwhile, the Gordie Howe International Bridge, a critical artery for auto manufacturing and cross border trade at the Detroit Windsor border, has become entangled in the dispute. When infrastructure projects and presidential permits become bargaining chips, it signals that this is about more than just tariffs. It's about political leverage, economic security, and the future of North American integration. So, are we witnessing a temporary political flare up or a structural shift in how trade relationships function? And if CUSMA's protections weaken, is Canada prepared economically and strategically for what comes next? Well, joining us now to break it all down is Professor Andreas Schotter. Dr. Schotter is a professor of international business at the Ivey Business School in Canada. He is also a John H. Dunning Fellow at Henley Business School at the University of Reading in UK, and a professor of international business at the Vienna University of Economics and Business. Welcome, Andreas. Thank you so much for joining me on again.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Thank you, Tanya.
So, we really want to talk about North American trade stability. Are we at risk? We've heard Governor Tiff Macklem sort of signal that if we lost preferential access under CUSMA, this could trigger a recession in Canada. How realistic is that scenario? And through what economic channels would we see that damage first?
It is a real risk, I have to admit. There is a lot of exemptions right now because of CUSMA. Their negotiations will be used as a huge leverage against Canada. That is for sure. But the direct effects may not be felt because the tariffs don't kick in right now. But the indirect effects, the insecurity and the instability it creates around investment in Canada and so on, they are significant. And we will have to be prepared for this.
So, even without a formal withdrawal, with all of this ongoing rather, tariff uncertainty, it seems every week presents a new scenario. How is this affecting business investment in Canada or productivity, long term competitiveness, and hiring? I worry.
Yeah, so there are multiple factors. You're referring directly to CUSMA or the other noise that is coming from the tariff threats because of the China negotiation and so on. You did this during your intro. There's two effects. When there is uncertainty around tariffs, investments will be held back. Permanent hiring will be held back. There will be more contractual hiring, and consumers will be very much reluctant to make larger investments as well. So this has significant direct effects and indirect effects, which may actually, as the Bank of Canada also alluded, could push us into a recession.
My goodness. So, is this a temporary flare up because of politics south of the border? We are heading into US midterms. Will that affect things? Or is this really representative of kind of like a longer term North American economic integration and shift?
Yeah, at the moment it appears to be like a race of chicken, and we are the small chick while there's a big rooster on the other side. You can say so, but yes, definitely, as the domestic political situation keeps on tipping in the United States, or at least that's what we hear. The erratic behavior around tariffs and threats will just grow. that I do believe. But this is not something that the current administration can play forever, as the voter sentiment is very much tied to current pricing and jobs, and they do feel the fallout as well in the United States.
Yeah, and of course, this is going to be a busy year. Again, CUSMA up for negotiation in a few months, and the midterms just a few months after that. So we'll have to see what happens. We'll be right back.